Let's rock and roll. All right. What I'm sharing about today is one of my passions, really is. And I fell upon this because I got extremely sick in 2020. I was laying down in bed, and Scott, welcome. If you share this event, Scott, I will share the recording in the outline with you. Share button is down there below, and you guys all seem to see the emojis. You're interacting, so I appreciate that. So in 2004, or 2004. That's another story for another day. In 2020, I was extremely sick. I mean, day after day, week after week, month after month. I didn't have any strength. I was hacking. I was coughing. Um, it was terrible. And during this time, I was like, God, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I'm just going to trust you. And if I lose my business, I lose my business. Because understand, I was extremely weak. And I had started doing some different biohacking. And let me define biohacking so you understand. I put a poll out and I was asking people on LinkedIn, hey, do you biohack? One guy commented, no, I don't biohack and I don't deal with cons either. Okay, so a lot of people don't know what biohacking is. Just think about this. Little hacks, as far as I'm talking about today, is to improve your health, to deal with imposter syndrome, to increase productivity, to change your frame of reference within your mind. So you can go from sadness to joy, you can face imposter syndrome, you can understand and overcome fear. What's the biggest problem we have? What's the biggest obstacle in your life? I wish I could hear back from you. What's the biggest obstacle in your life? Is it someone else or you? Give me a thumbs up if you think it's you. Give me a clap emoji if you think it's someone else. Tracy, thank you. Yeah, we are our biggest obstacles. But we could be one of our greatest resources. But you have to understand how to deal with challenges and obstacles, lack of self-confidence, and doubt. For most of my life, I struggled with these things. And today, I'm not going to talk about my business offer. I'll talk about what I do intermittently through here because this event is brought to you by Mastery of B2B Sales. So I'll give you some slight, simple, brief commercials throughout. This is about me overcoming fear, being consumed with fear, not understanding my emotions, suppressing my emotions, lacking self-confidence, lacking emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, this is where it starts. It's all about knowing and understanding your own emotions and influencing them. Now, as you build an emotional intelligence, it's about understanding other people's emotions so you as a leader can positively impact their lives and influence them. All right, does that make sense? So back to our biggest obstacle. Our biggest obstacle, my biggest obstacle is me. Your biggest obstacle is you. And when we think about ourselves as our being the biggest obstacle, it's our thoughts. The most important conversation you have with yourself are your inner dialogue. The most important conversation you have in life is your conversation you have with yourself. Better said. And if you're not aware of the conversation that's going on in your mind, we have 40 to 60,000 ideas, thoughts that go through our mind every day. Most of those are negative. If you can't nip those in the bud, then you're going to go down a road that is not good. In 2004, this got me to a place where I was in an extremely depressed state, and I mean, I didn't want to live. I was in a bad place. Over the next 20 years, I've learned a lot of different things. And let me go back to not 2004, but 2020. So as I was laying there in bed and I was asking God, it's like, what do I do? How am I going to get through this? Could you heal me? Please. I started thinking about Wim Hof breathing. And how many people are familiar with Wim Hof breathing? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, we got a few of you. All right. And again, if Letitia, nice to see you, Letty. If you share this event, again, I will share the recording, the outline, bottom right-hand corner, you can share this event. So Wim Hof breathing is breathing into your diaphragm, breathing out, breathing into your chest and breathing out. And they did a study, and I believe this was conducted by Andrew Huberman. He's a scientist. They injected people with E. coli. How many of you would like to be injected with E. coli? Not me, okay? They injected people with E. coli, and they did Wim Hof breathing. And the people that did, and they had another study group that I'm not going to, for the intents and purposes of this conversation, I'm not going to get into right now. You can look up the study, Andrew Huberman, YouTube, Wim Hof breathing, E. coli injection. I'm sure you can find it. The people who were doing the Wim Hof breathing, they were able to have no symptoms and overcome the E. coli quickly. Is that amazing? Just by breathing. And it's just so you know, it's into your belly, into your chest. Basically, that's it. And you're doing this 30 times. And then on the 30th breath, you breathe it out 80% of the way. Then you hold your breath. And for the longest I've done after breathing out is 3 minutes and 24 seconds. By doing this, it helps. I'm not going to get into the scientific reason why it works. I'm just going to tell you how it helped me. So it helps improve your immune system. I already told you about the E. coli study, injecting them with E. coli. And by doing this, I was able to get the energy to get out of bed and to function and to work for 4 to 5 hours a day when I was extremely sick. So Wim Hof breathing, it's great to do throughout the day. If you face a stressful situation, if you have stress, you have worry, this can change the chemicals in your brain quickly like that. Now, I have something else that's even better than Wim Hof breathing. If you want to flood your brain with drugs, I'm talking about the good drugs that God created you and me. Dopamine, oxytocin, the type of drugs that changes you from being sadness or doubt or worry to having joy and excitement. I'm gonna talk about that here in a second. So, circling back to our conversations with ourselves in our inner dialogue, you've probably faced a challenge today. Okay? Give me a thumbs up. If you haven't faced a challenge today, you're probably not alive. We all face challenges, all right? So when you face that challenge, what is the question that you ask yourself? The questions you ask yourself in challenges, in just in general, determine the direction of your life. Ask yourself stupid questions, you'll have your brain communicate with you because you're an idiot. Let me give you an example of a stupid question. Questions that put you into a victim mode. For example, if you're facing a challenge and you say, why does this always happen to me? That's a stupid question. Your brain is going to respond to that question, you're an idiot, or something along those lines. And just so you know, that's my go-to thing. I know it. I'm self-aware so I can nip it in the bud. How many people have been there? If you're going to be transparent. A lot of times my transparency, I don't even realize it. It's just the way I live my life. It makes people uncomfortable because most people aren't this transparent. It's not a knock against you. I've gone through a lot of different things, and I'd rather talk about these things because I want to help you see and realize your potential. This is my motivation. This is my why. Help you see and realize your potential. And if you don't understand, aren't self-aware of your thoughts, you don't know how to control and influence them, you're going to have a miserable life. You're going to lack joy. You're going to lack fulfillment, okay? Now, the questions you ask yourself that you should ask yourself when you're facing a challenge is, how can I learn through this? What can I do to make sure that I don't repeat this again? For example, Jennifer, she said, Chaz, I didn't get the replay of last week's session. It was a great session, by the way. We did a collaboration session and networking session. I do this about every 4 to 5 weeks. And I said, Jennifer, I didn't hit record button. That's why I was saying her name at the beginning. And so I could have said, why does this always happen to me? How did I forget? And I just said this to myself. I said, okay, what can I learn to make sure that I don't repeat this again? And I thought, oh, I'll just be like a pilot and have a checklist to go through each time to make sure, okay, hit record. So the questions you ask yourself determine the direction of your life. And when you ask yourself questions like, how can I improve through this? How can I get better? Your brain, your subconscious will go to work looking for solutions. Seriously, I remember having a low closing percentage one month. I teach people how to sell. Can you relate to this, Jennifer? I teach people how to sell, and this is a few years back, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? What is going on? What do I need to improve? How do I make sure this never happens again? So I was asking myself these questions because I knew at this point in time. So in the middle of the night, I woke up at like 2:30 in the morning, and I'm like, oh, that's it. When I talk about sales, the first step of my process is intention to serve. And I was going with the intention to sell. How many people have been in a conversation with a salesperson and you just know their intention is try to sell you something? Ever been in a timeshare sales presentation? Okay. That's at least every timeshare presentation I went through. You know, you stay there for the weekend and you you just have to sit through a 45-minute presentation that lasts for 2.5 hours. And two of the hours of them trying to close you to buying their timeshare. So by asking the questions, your brain will start looking for solutions, asking yourself the right questions. Okay, you guys tracking with me? And by the way, brief break from the event. This event is brought to you by Mastery of B2B Sales. If you know someone who has a sales team or 1 to 5 salespeople, typically 5 to 50 employee size company, reach out to me. Let's chat about sales. Talk about your leadership, your sales culture. If there's a way I can help, it's not going to be high pressure. If there's a way I can help and if you're interested, we can go into a more in-depth conversation. Email me at chazhorn@chazhorn.com. You'll be glad I did. And if you refer anyone my way, I will give you a percentage if they become my client, okay? So today I want to talk about decreasing stress, improving resilience. How many of you guys are excited about that, okay? Increasing joy, improving your health. Just so you know, from 2020 till today, I still have some symptoms. My immune system was pretty much destroyed. But by doing some of these different hacks, I've improved my health system in many ways beyond what it was previously. The thing that I still do, I still sleep like 9 to 10 hours a day. You know, I don't want to sleep 9 to 10 hours a day. I just have to because my body just needs that. But other than that, I have more energy. My health is improved. So understand your thoughts, the questions, they determine the direction of your life. And you need to shift those. You need to change those. And one point I really want to drill home as I get into some of these other biohacks, I'm going to do different categories for you. In World War II, they were in this triage hospital. If you've ever seen MASH, I know MASH was the Korean hospital or in Korea, but it just gives you a visual if you know the TV show. All these wounded people were coming in, they get treated, and they ran out of morphine. Okay, I mean, these people were lost limbs and were shot up and blown up, and a few of them were barely hanging on just for their life, and they ran out of morphine. The nurse took it upon herself to go to her patients, the soldiers, and said, okay, this morphine is really powerful. She filled a syringe with saline and said, it'll take a minute or two, and all your symptoms will be gone. So check this out. Within 2 minutes, 90% of the patient's pain was gone. This is how we get the placebo. This is what we call a placebo effect today. That's how powerful the brain is. And by the nurse taking it upon herself, obviously some wisdom beyond a lot of the doctors, I mean, by doing that, she was able to relieve their pain by injecting them with something that shouldn't have done anything, but their mind was thinking, oh, wow, I'm getting this powerful morphine. Awesome. Think about that. Okay. So talking about the Wim Hof breathing, talking about that's the breathing. There's all sorts of different breathing exercises. I'm going to focus on Wim Hof and some diaphragmatic breathing here in a second. That's breathing into your belly. Are you guys familiar with Dana White? He's a president of the UFC. Okay. If you don't, I mean, UFC, Ultimate Fighting Championship. So Dana White got to a place, and he's in his 50s now, where he was on 5 different medications. He couldn't sleep through the night. He was falling asleep in meetings. His health was, his high blood pressure. He had a CPAP machine. And he came across Gary Brecka. And if you want to search Gary Brecka, he's actually teamed up with Grant Cardone with an organization called 10X Health, where you could take this DNA test and they can tell you how long you should live. Well, they did this for Dana White, and he said, and Dana White's like, dude, I'm not into any of this woo-woo stuff or anything like this, but if you want to do this, fine. So they did the DNA and came back. He was only gonna live for another 10 years. So Gary Brecka met with him, and he goes, I can change all of this. I can help you get off these medications if you do exactly what I tell you to do. And he had Dana White's attention then. 50 something, 1 or 2, 10 years to live. So he had, I don't know everything. He did, because the blood work showed some of the supplements that he was lacking. He did some breathing exercises, some cold plunges, and a bunch of other things that I'm going to talk about here. And within 3 months, it was actually 10 weeks, Dana was off of all of his medications. He was taking 5, no more CPAP machine to sleep at night. And his energy level, he goes, man, I feel like I'm in my 30s again. I just thought I was feeling like that because I was getting old. Grant Cardone has a similar story, and that's why Grant Cardone invested in Gary Brecka, and it's called 10X Health today. So some of these things I'm going to talk about, you've seen people's lives change around without doing drugs, because Western medicine is great if you need a knee replacement and knee surgery, but they're terrible to proactively help improve your health. If you go to 2020, you can see what they told us to do, and all this information is coming back now that they were wrong. And so this is not a political statement or anything like this. It's just they were wrong. So there's better ways to improve your health with your mind, body, and doing some of these biohacks, okay? Let me jump into, here's something I want to just share with you. As I was sick in bed, Sharon, thank you for joining us. And anyone that joined us new, just please share the event. More people will join us, and I'll share the outline with the links, and I'll send you a direct message. And if you want the video, just send me your best email address through direct message, okay? As I was laying there in bed, there's something else that really happened to me back in 2020. I was laying there in bed, and I have no strength, I have nothing. And it was an amazing shift that happened as I started to focus on, hey, I can see, I can hear, I'm not in much pain, I have all my 5 senses, my dog is healthy, my kids are healthy, I have savings, and people talk about gratitude. And I was like, oh yeah, gratitude, roll your eyes. Yes, it's important, I know that. But this moment in time took my understanding of gratitude from head knowledge to heart knowledge. Huge shift. And my life in this sickened state was filled with joy, in a joy I could just not, explain to you. If you would look at me with all my circumstances, it's like I have no reason to be joyful. But that's the importance of how you think. Here's a thought for you that can change your life. And it's really small. It's not a biohack, but it will shift how you think. Instead of thinking about what you have to do and the things you don't have, by the way, most of my life, this is how I thought. Oh man, I have to do this thing. I have to go to this job tomorrow. Oh man, I have to cut the grass. I mean, that's how I've thought. I wouldn't physically say this, but in my mind, this is what I was saying. When you shift from all that you have to do and the things you don't have to all that you have, and all the things in people, in all the things you get to do, and all the people in your life, it will shift your perspective. I brush my dog's teeth every 2 days, and I would wake up, oh, is this the day I would have brushed her teeth? Oh, man. So now, like, I get to brush her teeth. I mean, it's a silly example, but, you know, my kids are grown and out of the house, I have my dog. And I brush her teeth because that's important for her health. You guys may think I'm a little obsessed, but I just think, oh, this is the day I get to brush her teeth. It's a little thing that you can change with your thought process that will change your life, okay? So the things you get to do, all that you have, as opposed to the things you don't have and the things that you have to do. Does that make sense? Okay. When you focus on all that you have and get to do, joy will appear in your life like you never imagined before. All right, meditation. Just so you know, I thought meditation was kind of like a woo-woo, and I thought it conflicted with my faith, but it's just the opposite. Now, I mean, there's some things you can go down in meditation, but what I'm talking about today, it's in alignment with my faith. And if you don't believe in God, hey, that's no worries whatsoever. This is just the foundation for me. Okay, I'm not here to tell you to believe a certain way. This is just me, and this is my foundation. That being said, when I started to look at meditation, I think I came across, I think it was Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he was talking about if you do a certain type of meditation to get your mind in a certain state. Now, most of the time we're in a stressful state. And when your mind is in a stressful state, it will lead to inflammation in the body. Inflammation in the body leads to disease. So by doing a meditation and getting yourself into a theta and alpha state, you're bringing peace into your life, and your body is able to repair itself that much quicker. So I'm like, okay, I had this immune thing that just destroyed me, and I'm recovering from this still. So I started doing meditation. I'll tell you what, it was difficult getting past a couple minutes. I'm serious. It was extremely difficult. So what I started doing is just diaphragmatic breathing, which is I would lay down, I would breathe into my belly. Just by doing that, it gives me peace. And I would do this, 2 to 5 minutes, and then I started doing it longer and longer and longer. And it wasn't like thinking about a certain thing. I would just allow my mind to wander. And by doing this, it brought a lot of peace into my life. And I had some of my most creative and best ideas for my business. Because if you are in a constant state of stress, you're going to miss out on using your God-given creativity. You need to take breaks throughout your day. And by the way, Juliet Funt, her dad, if you guys, I'm dating myself, did, what's that? You're on Candid Camera. That's her dad. She wrote a book. She's on LinkedIn called A Minute to Think. And I do these meditation breaks throughout the day in addition to other things. And when you take what she calls white spaces in your calendar, meaning breaks between meetings, get outside, do something else, it will increase your productivity and you'll get into more of a flow state. A flow state is where you're thinking about things and you're looking at solutions as opposed to like, oh, I got to do this, I've got to do this, I got to do this. Break up your day, and whether it's meditation or whatnot, take simple breaks. Now, I started doing this meditation, and Joe Dispenza said, back to my diaphragmatic breathing, I was doing it 3 times a day, 15 minutes each time. Okay, so 45 minutes total, broken into 3 different times. 4 days later, Dr. Joe Dispenza said, if you do this, you'll start to experience healing in your body. And I was like, okay, well, I'll try it. So I had this frustrating health issue going on. 4 days later, while doing this diaphragmatic breathing, meditation, getting myself into an alpha theta state, this medical condition disappeared. Now, could it have been something else? Yes, but it aligned exactly with what he said with the meditation. So meditation is so helpful, and it's the way God designed our bodies to heal itself. So meditation, and if you look, there's so many different types of meditation. One of the meditations that I like the best, it's Yoga Nidra. Now, when I say yoga, it's not about twisting yourself up like a pretzel. It's you're laying down. It takes you through an exercise where it focuses on different body parts as you think through this. This has really helped me in my sleep. It's deeper sleeps. It's helped me get my brain into a place where my body is healing itself. And plus, I visualize my future self as I'm going through this meditation. You make decisions based on where you are. Based on your past, 90% of people. When you make decisions based on your past, you're shackled to the past. You are imprisoning yourself from making progress. When the way to break the shackles of your past and being imprisoned within your own mind is to start focusing on your future self. And so, great book on the subject, by the way, Dr. Benjamin Hardy, Your Future Self Now. He's actually interviewing me next week, which is amazing. I don't even, well, I do know how it happened, but that's a story for another time. So when you focus on your future self, you start to do the things now that will take you from where you are to where you want to go. The things you do and don't do today will decide where you are and where you aren't tomorrow. The things you do and don't do today will decide where you are and where you aren't tomorrow. The best way to build self-confidence is, guess what? Keep the promises you make to yourself. The best way to destroy your self-confidence is to break those promises you make to yourself. Anybody been there? New Year's resolution, people? I don't go to the gym. I have a gym at home that I work out. And typically, I don't go to the gym in January because it's crowded. And it's hard to get a workout in. But February 1st, even actually like the fourth week in January, people are pretty much gone. There's a few people that are still there. They're breaking their promises to yourself. How many people have broken your promise to yourself here? I'm putting my thumbs up. I have too many times. And still today, I do break promises to myself. So here's something that can transform your life, help you face fear, help you reach your potential. And this is something that I learned when I had this, it felt like I had a tumor. Anybody see Kindergarten Cop with Arnold Schwarzenegger? The kid goes up to him. He goes, "Oh man, I got a headache." The kid goes, "It could be a tumor." Arnold Schwarzenegger said, "It's not a tumor." So it felt like a tumor was breaking out of my skull for about 3 weeks. And I remember going into a Walmart and it was debilitating. I just had this huge pain in my head. Anybody have like a huge pain and it's just sucking the life out of you? This is what it was like. I didn't even want to go to the store. I was walking into the store and I felt like I heard someone say, "Go cheer up the Walmart greeter lady." And I'm like, "God, is that you?" And I'm like, I don't feel good. It's like, why do I want to take time? I looked over at her and she was hunched over. She's maybe 85. You know, the Walmart greeter lady, the Walmart greeters that don't greet you. They should change their title. Anyway, so she was hunched over. She looked depressed. And so I walked up to her. I said, "High five." I startled her out of her funk. And she went from down and depressed to a huge smile on her face. She didn't jump up. She's 85. She didn't have a vertical leap, but she slapped me 5, made her day, made my day. You want to know something interesting? That debilitating pain with that headache, that thing that felt like a tumor was breaking out of my skull, it dissipated for about 2 hours after that. 2 hours. Then it came back. Now, I had this debilitating headache, and here's something that's real cool. So this is entitled Cry Therapy. Now, hang with me. Okay, this is something that I've named. I don't think anyone has like a trademark on this or anything, and I'm not looking to trademark it. I was talking to my coach at the time, and I was telling her, I'm like, you know what? I had this pain. And she's like, what's wrong with you today? And I explained to her the debilitating pain. And she said, maybe you need to cry. I'm like, what? Cry? She goes, yeah, Chaz, from talking to you, I can sense, and you've told me that you've suppressed feelings most of your life. And when you suppress feelings, it can turn into disease. We are made to be emotional beings. And if you don't express yourself and deal with those feelings, they will suck the life out of you. And it can turn into ailments and whatnot down the line. And so she said, what I do when I get this certain pain, I realize it's because I haven't processed some emotions. So she said, I'll watch a romance movie for 90 minutes and then I'll break down and cry and get all these feelings out. I'm like, well, I don't want to wait 90 minutes. So I YouTube searched how to cry real hard, real fast. And I put this video, I started playing this. They pulled up some videos about soldiers coming home. You guys ever seen any soldiers coming home videos? And so within 20 seconds of watching this soldier coming home, I was crying like a baby. And it was, as I was like crying, I could feel all these emotions that I had suppressed. And it was like I was releasing these emotions and being able to process it at the same moment. And you want to know something? That pain, it wasn't gone for just an hour, hour and a half, or 2 hours. It was gone permanently. Now when I get this pain in my head, I realize it's associated because I'm suppressing something. I haven't dealt with something. Now I'm much better about this, but I will go to, if I'm feeling like down and I can sell this pain, I will go to my YouTube videos, how to cry real hard, real fast. And it helps me process my emotions. Seriously. All right. Morning routines. Let me shift. Welcome, Jay. If you share this event, I will share the outline and links and other information with you. Okay. Circadian rhythm. Anyone familiar with the circadian rhythm? When you go to sleep at night, okay, your mind and body should shift. When you wake up in the morning, that's when you get, I forget the stress chemical, it will wake you up. I'll remember it later. But anyway, it's there not only because of stress, but it's there to wake you up in the morning. And if you don't get outside in sunlight for a period of time in the morning, your body will not shift from night to day correctly. And it can wear on you during the course of the day. So here's something from Gary Brecka, and Andrew Huberman talks about this. This is some of the things he had Dana White do. Remember, Dana White was extremely sick, 5 medications. There's 10 years to live. So this morning routine, he said, if you're here's the things that you should never miss during the course of your day. Breathing exercises, cold plunges. Okay? So when you wake up in the morning, go outside. I do this every morning. I've been doing this, but I haven't been doing it in this order. Now when I wake up in the morning, one of the first things I do is I go outside in my shorts, not my briefs. I have neighbors, okay? In my shorts, it's Kansas City, and it could be cold out there. I do the Wim Hof breathing for 3 rounds, which usually takes 10, 11 minutes. And as you're outside and I have my eyes open, it helps you adjust for the day. Now, after doing the Wim Hof, I do a cold plunge. You don't have to do an ice bath. And if you think, Chaz, that's obsessive, let me tell you something. There's nothing more powerful. Remember I said this earlier in the conversation. There's nothing more powerful than being able to flood your brain with dopamine and oxytocin, and I'm not talking about caffeine. The cold plunges and the Wim Hof breathing, it will change the chemicals in your brain. And it's not just like, you drink coffee and then like in the afternoon, they talk about that all of a sudden it falls off and then you're like tired. It's long lasting. It will give you an alertness that you never thought possible. And you start with cold shower. That's it. And then you progressively go up. I've been doing these cold plunges now for over 4 years. and it changes my alertness like nothing else. So wake up, get outside, Wim Hof breathing, and then do a cold plunge or cold shower. It will help you sleep better at night too. Seriously. Remember I talk about yoga nidra? Before I go to sleep at night, I do yoga nidra right before sleep, and I sleep like a baby. And I struggle, not always, but much better than I used to. I struggle with it. All right, I'm going to give one last thing, and then we're going to have you come up on stage if you have any questions about anything. Intermittent fasting. Do you guys know what intermittent fasting is? I didn't know what it was, but you want to know something? I was doing it, and I didn't even realize I was doing it. Intermittent fasting is when you don't eat for 16. Now, it's different with men and women, so seek out someone that has more information on this, but it's really powerful. It actually reverses and prevents Alzheimer's. I'll explain this here in a second. So when I was sick, remember I was telling you I had to sleep 12, 14 hours a day? Now I'm between 9 to 10 hours a day. So I was just naturally not eating for about 16 hours or so. Then I came across intermittent fasting. I'm like, wow, I'm doing this. And I didn't realize until I went to the doctors one day. He was like, man, Chaz, what have you been doing, man? You got a six-pack and you're ripped. It's like I've been trying to get a six-pack for 50 years. But when I started doing intermittent fasting, didn't even know I was doing intermittent fasting, I got a six-pack. You know, the fitness trainers say it's 70% diet, you know, what you eat, and 30% exercise or something like that. So by doing this, I got a six-pack. I have a six-pack today. And I wasn't even really trying to do that. But 16 hours, now I know it, and so I track it more closely, but it's a habit. By doing 16 hours, it helps clean out your body. If you go to 17 hours, and this is what goes to the study, and you could do search TED Talk, reverse Alzheimer's, intermittent fasting, and you can see the study on that. When I go 17 hours, the reason why it turns around Alzheimer's and prevents it is because your cells repair when you get to 17 hours of intermittent fasting. And let me tell you something. You know, I'm 60. When I get to 17 hours and I'm doing that consistently day after day after day, my alertness is to a place that it's never been previously. Intermittent fasting, check it out. And there's been some studies, and I've had women say, well, women should only do 14 hours. So there's women in the audience here. Do your own research and find this out. I just know that it's changed my life, and it's helped me be more healthy, more alert. And hey, being 60, I don't want to get Alzheimer's, and so I'm doing things to prevent that, to be proactive with my health. All right. Anybody have any questions about the things that we talked about today? Or maybe, let me give you one more thing. Raise your hand if you want to come up on stage. This next thing is really cool. So check this out. How many people faced imposter syndrome? I put my thumb up. Am I the only one that faces imposter syndrome? Okay. I know you all do, because we all face imposter syndrome. So here's the 3D formula to help you deal and nip imposter syndrome in the bud. You ready? So something happens, typically. You do something and it doesn't go the way you thought it would, whether a conversation with someone you care about, or they talked to you a certain way, or you did something and it failed. So what happens? You'll say, oh man, I'm an imposter. I'm no good. Why am I doing this? You know, you get into the negative questions asking yourself. So the 3D formula is this. Identify the story you're telling yourself. That's the first D. This is a three-dimensional way. This helps you build emotional intelligence too. It's a three-dimensional way to look at your thoughts that you're having, being able to process them and be able to overcome them and go from those negative thoughts to using them as a launch pad into your potential. So you have an imposter thought. I'm no good. I'm like this. Why does this always happen to me? You identify it. Okay. I'm telling myself I'm an imposter. I'm telling myself I'm no good. You identify it. That's the first step. The second dimension, the second D, the 2D, is what are the facts without emotion? I was doing this with a sales team with a particular salesperson. He didn't do his activity. And I said, why didn't you do your activity? He goes, well, I no excuse. I'm going to make sure I get it done next week, Chaz. I'm like, no, I want to know why. I can't help you if I don't understand why. And he goes, well, I've been having some problems at home, and it's really jacked up my thought process. I go, awesome. His transparency opened up the conversation with all the other sales reps to talk about their problem, the things that they were struggling with. This is not I'm not a counselor. We didn't have a counseling session, but kind of. So he said, I'm struggling with my attitude, my mindset. And that's the most important thing in sales is your attitude and your mindset, your perspective. I said, okay, great. I took him through the 3D process. He was saying, I'm a failure. I'm not providing for my wife the way I should. And so we identified this. I said, okay, you're calling yourself an imposter, right? He goes, yeah, that doesn't make me feel any better, Chaz. I said, I know, we're not there yet. We're only in the first D. Second dimension is this. What are the facts without emotion? I said, John, how long have you been doing this in this role? 11 years. How many people have you helped over the 11 years? Hundreds, maybe thousands of people? Okay. So in a significant way? Yes. I know some of the stories you told me. So does what you're telling yourself conflict with the facts? Facts without emotion. That's 90% of the battle, isn't it? Right? The emotions, there they are, our inner dialogue. So the facts without emotions. Now he's going from imposter to facts without emotions. Wow. He is able to identify, wow. Well, the facts say I'm not an imposter. The third D is this. The third dimension is, what if the opposite story is true? So in his situation, we said, John, okay, you're having challenges at home. So you can look at it like you're an imposter, you're not following through, but your facts are saying something else, right? Yes. So this is an opportunity for you to grow. So it's about what if the opposite story is true? And so he's like, oh, instead of saying I'm an imposter, this is an opportunity for me to grow. And this is what a growth mindset is. When you start to realize it's not just about focusing on the goal and reaching the goal. Yeah, that's important. It's when you start to embrace the challenges along the way and understand those challenges are not there to break you, but to make you into who God created you to be. That's when you start to build a growth mindset. Carol Dweck, she wrote the book Mindset, and she talks about a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. This is a growth mindset, and this is what takes you into your potential. Embracing those challenges and learning through those challenges, knowing those challenges are not there to break you, but to make you into who God created you to be. Okay, hands up if you have any questions. If not, we will circle back. And again, if you know somebody, 1 to 5 salespeople, or an organization of 5 to 50 salespeople, reach out to me. I, as a fractional chief revenue officer, I provide the leadership, I provide the sales process, the selling system, I provide marketing and sales together. I help implement the steps. I help correct the steps when things are flawed, because when you do something new, it's always going to be flawed. It's about progress, not perfection. Reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk with you or them. And if they become a client, I'd be happy to give you a percentage if they do become a client. Make sense? Any questions from anybody about what we talked about? Or maybe you have a challenge right now. Can I tell you something? I say this all the time. Right now, I guarantee you have a thought, you're struggling with something, you're having problems, but what you're thinking is you're not thinking about solving the problem. You're worried about, if I get on stage and say this, what are people going to think about me? Can I tell you something? People do not think about you. They think about themselves, okay? They think about themselves. And it's not what you think about people, it's what you think about what people think. That's the core of the problem. Jennifer, unmute yourself.
Hey, this was so good, Chaz. Thank you so much for everything.
Sure.
I had several years of health challenges and it really impacted me. And I think a big portion of that was because I was trying to do everything out of my own strength, right?
Mm.
Um, you gave us some good tools to operate, out of working from rest and not stress. At least that's how I would like to phrase it. Have you ever looked into hyperbaric oxygen
Oh,
chamber?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a game changer for me. And so I was just wondering if that would be something that you would add to that list of
Mo-
recommendations.
Yeah, I have Jennifer. That's such a great point. It's we all have. You know what? If you just realize we all have problems and you start focusing on solutions, your life will get so much better, as opposed to hiding your problems and you'll never solve them. Okay, so what she's talking about is having oxygen at a concentrated rate. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer. It will help you build your immune system in so many different ways. I've actually been looking around Kansas City area. And if you give me some information on this, because this is one of the things that they did with COVID patients that was not CDC approved that saw people turn around quickly. It helps fight disease. It helps improve your immune system and health. I have one of my clients, Rex Miller, great guy. He's written like 5 books. He has a hyperbaric chamber. Is that correct? He had this for his kids. One kid, he had autism, and all the doctors wanted to throw medications. He did his own research, and he heard about the hyperbaric chambers, and so he bought one. And I think it's like $25,000, but he bought it at his house. And he said, "Yeah, Chaz, if you come down," he lives in Texas, so it's not really convenient. I live in Kansas City. He said it helped my kid like nothing else any of the doctors were giving him. How did it help you specifically, Jennifer?
Yeah, so I was having long COVID symptoms as well. I just had some other things that, like inflammation, you had mentioned that. I mean, there was no reason why I shouldn't have the mobility or I had all the pain that I had, and I think this was just a lifetime of stuff that was built up. But of course, that virus made it worse. So it was just building and it was just time. But the biggest thing here is what you touched on is I made the decision. I made the decision to say enough is enough and to find a solution. And when I did that, then that trickled into other things. So I had scoliosis since I was a little girl. And I was like, why do I have to keep going to a chiropractor? I just prayed on that and said, what solutions do you have for me? And I realized there was physical therapy and I found the right one for me. And also upper cervical specialist that only focuses on the atlas. So this is not what a regular chiropractor can do. And that has been a game changer. So now I could actually spend the time that I want reading or in front of the computer doing those things to serve others. And again, like you mentioned, sales is about being of service. So this just elevated so many things in my life, but really I sought that direction. What is it specifically for me? Because there's all kinds of info out there. And like you said, it may or may not be for us, right? We have to discern what is for us and what isn't. So radical game changer right there.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. Give her a hand. That's a great add to this. Yeah, definitely. This is something I am so obsessed. A lot of people say, Chad, you're obsessed with this. Yes. If you want to improve, maybe because I'm in my 4th quarter of life, you that aren't, and many of you aren't in your 4th quarter of life, you can do things now. And the things I talk about, a lot of times you wait until it's too late. And it's not about doing us like, oh, Chad, you're talking about so much. I have so much more to share. I don't want to overwhelm you. Plus, we are short on time. These little things that you do consistently will change your life. That's the goal. These little things you do consistently will change your life. Denise, I'm going to unmute yourself. I'm going to say one thing before she mentions or asks her question. I talked about the best way to build self-confidence. I think they did a study on this too, is to keep promises to yourself. The best way to destroy your self-confidence is to break the promises to yourself. Really simple. And here's something that you can do. I put a goal, a challenge to myself for 6 months. Anytime I was out or I had a thought, I needed to act on the thought without hesitation. when you get to the place of building the skill set, it is a skill set and a habit and a discipline of acting on your thoughts. And I'm not talking about like jumping off a cliff or anything. I'm talking about things that take you out of your comfort zone, that may take you out of your comfort zone in a bad way, that will help you grow and mature and become who God created you to be. So I started acting on my thoughts, and it was after that high five to the Walmart lady. I was like, wow, that really changed her, made her day, made my day. So if I start seeing someone and I get a thought in my mind, I was driving to church one day. There was a guy on the side of the road. I think this was actually God. It's like, pick up that guy on the side of the road. I'm like, what? I'm listening to this audiobook too, and this is going to help me serve people at a higher level. It's like, God's probably like rolling his eyes. I kept hearing, is that you, God, or is that my subconscious? And I kept hearing, pick up the guy on the side of the road. Okay, so I didn't act on that thought without hesitation, but I turned around, picked the guy up, took him to church, found out his story. He just got out of prison. I was practicing my kung fu moves before I picked him up in case something happened, just so you know. And then we went to church. I talked to him. We had a great conversation. He didn't ask for money. I gave him money. I prayed with him. It's those things that you do that you're missing out on if you don't follow through and act on your thoughts and on your ideas. And if you build a discipline of doing this, I was in the produce section. Now, I'm single, so you married people, don't do this. I was in the produce section. I was by the tomatoes. There was this lady by the corn. I had a thought, hey, you should ask her out for coffee. I'm like, okay. I went over there. Hi. I don't remember. It was flawed. But we actually went out to dinner that night because I asked her. And we're friends to this day. She's an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. And it was just awesome. You're missing out on so much. And when you build the discipline of acting on your thoughts and ideas, you'll start to embrace who you are and start to reach your potential. Stop allowing fear to keep you shackled. Stop allowing your past to keep you imprisoned. I hope I pronounced your name, Dernice. I know I said that's a cool name in direct messages.
You actually said it correctly. Yes. Thank you. It is Dernice. You said it correctly. Thank you so much, Chad. Thank you for the invite. And Jennifer, you are correct. A lot of athletes are using those chambers as well. It's a very good tool. So I am agreeing with you on that type of therapy. Also, what I missed, Chaz, was the imposter syndrome. I apologize. I think I missed the third thing. If you can repeat that for me, that'll be awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So you also have a really good radio or podcaster voice, Dernice, just so you know. Doesn't she? She does. Which is a gift. So the third D, so just walking through in case anyone missed this, the first D is identify the story you're telling yourself. I'm an imposter. Second D is what are the facts without emotion? Okay. A lot of times they will conflict with one another. You take emotion out and then you can see things rationally. That's 90% of the battle. The third D is what if the opposite story is true? And so in my example with John, he was struggling, calling himself an imposter. He wasn't providing like he should for his wife. The facts without emotion were he's been doing this for 10 years. He's served thousands of people. He's helped his wife in many ways. They have a great relationship overall. And then the third D in that situation was, what if the opposite story is true? So he faced a challenge that caused him imposter syndrome. We went to the facts without emotion that conflicted with the imposter syndrome. And then the opposite story was, John, think about it this way. The opposite story is true. This challenge that you're going through doesn't say you're an imposter. It's an opportunity for you to grow. So instead of looking at yourself, oh man, this happened to me. I'm an imposter. I'm no good. That's what we do in our mind. It does it. I put my thumb up. That's what my mind does. But I just nip it in the bud a lot quicker. And then you say, oh, this is growth mindset. It's an opportunity to grow. If you look at that shift, this problem is a chance for me to identify weaknesses in my life so I can deal with those and to grow and to get better on the other side. Does that make sense, Dernice?
Oh my God, total sense. So I definitely love that. Thank you so much.
Yep. You are welcome. Anybody else? I'll let one more person up here if you have a final question. I'll count down from 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Next week, I'm going to talk about I'm pretty sure, the 5 pillars to grow sales by bringing marketing and sales together. Thank you for joining me, Jennifer and Denise. Everyone give them a hand for being pioneers and coming up on stage. I appreciate you coming up.